Hello! GTA Trilogy has finally been updated via a mobile release, provided by Netflix of all people. Let's talk about it. Ever since its release, people have been complaining about the graphics. I mean, the shadow and lighting effects look really good, but those warm color palettes from the original games were sadly missing in the definitive edition. At least, that was the case up until the mobile release. That's right, the mobile version isn't just a regular port of the console and PC versions. It's a whole updated version of the definitive edition. It features fixes and improvements that have yet to come to PC and console. From the very first moment you enter GTA San Andreas, for example, you'll be greeted with a familiar warm color palette. After, I don't even know how many years at this point, the famous orange color palette is finally back in San Andreas. The last version to feature it was the original PlayStation 2 version, and that was like nearly 20 years ago. And it's not just San Andreas. Both Vice City and GTA 3 have also had their respective color palettes restored to the way they were supposed to be. All of these visual improvements are a result of one simple new addition in the graphics menu, the classic lighting setting. If you toggle this setting off, the visuals will revert back to how they look on PC and console versions. Yeah, I don't know why anyone would do that, considering how much they improve the experience. Also, I like how the classic lighting is enabled by default. Even the developers of the mobile version know that the game looks better with this setting on. Speaking of the developers, Rockstar finally dropped the so-called hard-working professionals from Grove Street Games, the original developers of the definitive edition, and instead hired a new studio to handle the mobile ports, Video Game Deluxe. They're mostly known for their LA Noire and San Andreas VR ports. I think they definitely made the right call there. To be fair, the classic lighting effect isn't without flaws. There was a slight oversight when developing classic lighting for San Andreas. It works perfectly in GTA 3 and Vice City, but there's a good reason why it works perfectly on those two and not on San Andreas. You see, GTA 3 and GTA Vice City both feature one playable city, and the lighting and weather effects were accordingly made to fit their respective cities. However, with San Andreas, they forgot about one thing. The game has 3 cities. They only designed the lighting effects for Los Santos, and that's cool and all, but what about San Fierro and Las Venturas? Well, either way, they got lazy or simply forgot about the fact that those 2 cities also have their own unique lighting and weather effects. This is kind of a bummer. All 3 cities share lighting effects that were tailor-made to fit Los Santos aesthetics. I doubt they'll change and update them. Fingers crossed, I guess. Ever since the definitive edition released, I was bothered by the fact that CJ's body doesn't get submerged when he jumps into the water. It's like the game's physics refuse to abide by the rules of gravity. It worked perfectly in the original game, and I was hoping the mobile release would fix it. Sadly, it didn't. However, it's not all bad. They did make some improvements. That horrible metallic-like liquid effect that would form upon jumping into the water is finally gone. Instead, it was replaced by a more subtle water splash effect. Also, they fixed the swimming speed. In the console and PC versions, CJ's swimming animation was abnormally slow, whereas the mobile version seems to have fixed that issue. They also added splash effects when CJ is swimming. Nice touch. All these water effect improvements got carried over to Vice City and 3. Now you can drown with proper water effects. The lack of collision between the player and the map was kind of a big problem in the definitive edition, so much so that Rockstar made numerous patches and still wasn't able to fix all of them. So, did the mobile version do these games justice? Well, they kinda did. The lack of collision on this specific part was always bothering me. Glad it's fixed now. The infamous Shady Creek cabin is finally enterable, and the San Fierro police station, which is probably the biggest collision screw-up so far, is now fixed. It only took 2 years, but hey! It's fixed now. Speaking of things that took way too long to fix, when crouching with CJ, his whole body would look deformed. It almost looks like he has a hunchback, but that's not the most frustrating part. Each time you move with him while being crouched, his left arm would do this twisting robotic-like motion that peeved the S-H-I-T out of me. Those things are fixed now, but why did it take them so long to fix something that is so distracting to the gameplay? Also, here's how CJ's body is supposed to look while riding a bike, and here's how it looks in the definitive edition. His arms were freakishly elongated and deformed, and while pedaling, his body would get even more deformed. They fixed it in the mobile version, sure, but why couldn't they fix it sooner? It's one of those things that kind of ruins the immersion. Surprisingly, they fixed some of the road textures around the map. These weren't game-breaking or anything, but I was genuinely surprised they took their time to fix something as minor as this. Performing tire burnouts on the console and PC versions would result in this nasty black smoke effect being emitted from the tires. Now they emit sort of a gray smoke in the mobile version. I guess they're trying to match the effects from the original games. And the improvements don't stop there. Believe it or not, we're currently standing in water. I know it doesn't look like it, but we are. They just forgot to make water visible in this area for some strange reason. We can even swim without any issues, but it just looks ridiculous. Props to the mobile developers for finally making it function properly. Remember all those rotating objects from the original that were broken in the definitive edition? Well, Rockstar did patch some of them on the PC and console versions. Unfortunately, they didn't get all of them. A lot of those objects were still broken and static, most notably the giant rooster from Bone County. This guy was one of the coolest landmarks in San Andreas. Heck, you could even complete a stunt jump over it.
Fool, you hit me!
And seeing him just stand there without moving was kind of disappointing. He's no longer static in the mobile version, but they sure took their sweet time. Like I said, this isn't a small detail, it's one of those core parts of the San Andreas experience. The mobile team also went out to fix a few more of the static objects around the map.
Use your jab to get the range. Leave yourself open.
Kudos for fixing them, but there are still a couple more that need to be fixed. Also, this one is just hilarious. Instead of fixing the giant sprunk can, they straight up removed it. A rather strange decision. With all the time they spent removing the giant sprunk can, why couldn't they just fix it? Is it that hard to animate a static object? At the very least, they fixed the Patriot's color. I mentioned in one of my previous videos how they changed all the military vehicles to red in the definitive edition. Now, I have no idea what the reasoning behind this change was, but hey, they reverted it back to its original color. Strangely, they didn't fix the barracks. It's still red. Also, here's the mandatory fog and draw distance comparison from the Los Santos skyscraper. The fog is finally functioning properly. I mean, you can still see the top of Mount Chiliad, but it's definitely an improvement. I probably should have mentioned this earlier, but screw it. I remember walking out of CG's house at like 9 PM for the first time on the mobile version. It felt like there was something different about those streetlights and the lighting effects at night in general, and I wasn't imagining it. They're completely overhauled. I was especially impressed by how CJ's model reacts to light. The difference is night and day.
Fat boy.
Give me a number 9, just like his. Let me get a number 6 with extra dip.
I'll have 2 number 9s, a number 9 large, a number 6 with extra dip, a number 7, 2 number 45s, 1 with cheese, and a large soda.
I was always bothered by those metallic ripple effects, mostly because they weren't implemented properly in the original definitive edition. You would fire a bullet into the water and the ripple would form. All good, right? Well, if you shot multiple bullets outside of the ripple effect not forming on most of those shots due to poor implementation, instead of having a smooth transition, the ripple effect would abruptly disappear. As I said previously, the nasty ripple effect is gone on the mobile port. Instead, we get some brand new and improved effects. They also fixed a couple of the broken animations. All in all, they did a decent job with the mobile port. They managed to fix some of the most glaring issues from the original. Sure, there are still quite a few issues that need to be fixed, but it's a step in the right direction. I, for one, would love to see these improvements make their way to the console and PC versions, but I guess we'll just have to wait and see. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed the video, a like and subscribe would be greatly appreciated. I'm working on a really big video next, and I don't think you want to miss it. So yeah, that's all for this one. See you next time.